Thank you.
Jennifer Ehle, thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you for having me.
You know, you have a lot of fans here since Pride and Prejudice was on this network and did so successfully here.
That's wonderful.
We'll talk about that in a little bit, but let's talk about the real thing first. You're on Broadway right now. This is the first time you've been on Broadway?
Yes, my debut.
Your debut. What's that like, stepping out there the first day, the first time on a Broadway stage?
I didn't really think of it like that. I guess I should have. I love this. We've done this play in 3. This is the 3rd theatre we've done it in, and it's the one, it's the big theatre that I like the best. We did another big theatre in London, which I didn't like so much, so I was just so relieved to be in that space. It's lovely, the Barrymore. And it didn't really hit me that I was on Broadway till after we opened, which was...
Surprise.
Yeah, yeah, it's wonderful.
It seems so timeless. It seems so current, this play, The Real Thing. But it's actually 18 years old, this play.
Yes.
Were there any changes made in the script?
Not really. Tom took out a couple of jokes that he thought were sort of gilding the lily, and took out a reference to a VCR video recorder that had, I guess they'd just come out around the time, early 80s.
Because I had read that Stoppard had said that he doesn't really go into a rehearsal in which he doesn't make some changes. So I was curious if how many changes he actually made. Not many then,
no.
Just a few things. And was he around? Was Stoppard around during the rehearsal period? Tell me about working with him.
Well, he didn't say much. He was there sort of at the beginning of the 3 times we've rehearsed over the last year. He was always there for the first sort of section of the rehearsals. And, yeah, he didn't say much, really.
What do you want us to know about this story if people don't know the play at all? Is there a way you can describe it a little bit?
No, it's just a play about love and language, and I don't really know how to describe it without sort of giving it away.
And well, I mean, in typical Stoppard style, a lot of love and language, whether it's Shakespeare and Love, which he also wrote, or Arcadia, or Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, it's usually about words. He likes to play with words. I'd asked you earlier about this. I don't know if we found this out. There was, I'd looked it up, and I told you I couldn't find the answer to it. Meretricious. This is the great thing about a Stoppard play. You sort of come with a dictionary, you know, to try to figure out what the heck he's talking about. What does that word mean again? I
think that meretricious has something to do with harlot in Latin.
All right, we'll have to look it up again.
I don't need to know because my character wouldn't know.
Didn't want to know. Do you like doing plays, about actors, about acting?
As a genre, it just depends on the play, really. Not particularly. But not particularly not, either. I just love this play. I've loved it since I was 14 when I first saw it. And I learnt sections of it when I was 14, and I've just been passionate about it ever since. And
since it's about a playwright, obviously by a playwright, how much of it is autobiographical and how much of it is just whimsy?
I don't know. I don't think that much of Henry, the playwright character, is actually Tom. I don't see how it certainly couldn't be Tom now. It couldn't even have been Tom at the time when he wrote it, because it is a character examined from every angle, and all the other characters pointing out flaws that are so deep within the playwright that it couldn't possibly just be a self-portrait at the time it was written. Who knows, maybe it was Tom 10 years before he wrote it, and he had the self-knowledge to then look at it that way. But I think it just sort of, he decided to use the world of theatre to tell a story about language and love, and I think it just happens to be a playwright.
Do you relish those moments? I mean, this is a great comedy, and you know that when you deliver the next line, let's say, the audience is going to go crazy. Or are you totally into the character and you're not aware of it? Or are you aware that this is going to really get a great reaction?
I find that if I think ahead about anything before I do it, it will fall flat, completely flat. So I try not to think about it, and I certainly try never to think, oh, this'll, you know, they'll like this, or this'll get them. So it's a strange mixture of sort of trying to know the timing to do something and then completely forget it, and not sort of stay so immersed in the character, because you can't. I don't think in theatre you can. I think it's, if you're not aware of the audience, you're acting in a bubble, and it's not. They are part of the experience.
Because you have to wait for them in certain instances, so you certainly have to be cued into them at some point. Talk to me about the cast a little bit. This is a little bit of an unusual arrangement. It's very rare that an entire British cast can come over to the United States and set up shop on a Broadway stage. You had to make some special arrangements.
Well, I'm not British, so it's not an entire
British
cast.
The rest of the British cast. You were born here in the United Carolina, right? North Carolina.
Yes.
But an original British cast that had done this in London.
I'm not sure how it worked. They've done an exchange of some kind, I think. And Sideman's gone over to the West End, and I don't know what all went on because...
They make some trades.
I guess. They didn't need to for me, so I never knew what was going on with everybody else.
One American and the rest of them. What is the real thing?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. Haven't a clue.
Really? Not a guess?
No, no. I think in the play it sort of puts forward all the time. What could the real thing be? Is it the first infatuation? Is it just can't get enough of each other? Is it wrapped up in each other? Is it great sex? Is it somebody who you think could be a possibility that you don't follow up? Is it what happens years down the line when the first sort of flush of lust is gone? I think it just sort of tries to examine all those things.
Tonight is the Tony Awards. They'll be given out. You've been nominated for a Tony for Best Actress for this play, as has your mother.
Yes.
Rosemary Harris. Did you ever dream that you would both be nominated in the same year and be up against each other? How unusual is it?
No, no. I've never had that arrogance. No.
What happened when you got the phone call? Who called you to tell you that you were nominated?
Brian, our lovely publicist, for The Real Thing, called and left a message saying that I'd been nominated, and I didn't know that anybody else had.
You didn't know the rest of the roster at that point?
No, I didn't know anybody. So I called Stephen Delane and congratulated him without actually knowing that he'd been nominated, but I assumed he would have been. And he had been.
He plays the lead.
He does, in The Real Thing. And then I called my mother and spoke to her sister because she was still asleep and said, please wake her up and tell her, for goodness sakes.
And was that when you found out that she'd been nominated?
I think I'd found out by then. I must have called somebody and said, who else?
And were you stunned when you found out that you were both nominated?
I was stunned when I found I was. I wasn't stunned when I found out she was. I was completely gobsmacked, yeah, about myself.
You mentioned earlier that you're American. Your father is an American, but your mother's British. What did you always want to act? Did you always want to follow your mother in this, or your father was a writer? Did you ever think that maybe you'd go that direction?
Yes, that's all I wanted to do. Was
really?
Write. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how I ended up doing this, but it's going okay, so I'm going to stick with it for the moment.
And do you dabble with the writing as well?
I do a bit, yeah.
At the same time?
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about Pride and Prejudice, if we can. It was on this network. As you know, it was a huge deal. I think at the time it was the most watched show on A&E.
Wow.
Was that surprising to you that it was so well received here in the United States?
I was so unaware of it being actually received anywhere. I was just at the Royal Shakespeare Company, sort of doing 3 plays for an extremely long time. And I was not aware of the success it achieved in England until much later, and I wasn't aware of the success it achieved in America till way after the fact. So I sort of did a bit of a Rip Bang Winkle, really. I just kind of woke up a couple of years later and realized that we'd made a hit. You
had made a hit. You have a lot of fans,
apparently,
and people really love it, and it's played again, and people buy the video and that sort of thing, and people are emailing me about you being here because of Pride and Prejudice.
That's amazing.
Do you like the corset and bustle roles? Do you think you like those?
I don't know. I don't think you can really define them like that. I mean, there aren't any other Elizabeth Bennet